This Chazor is in Shabbat Shag when Mishum says Chullin Daf Tzaddik. Rabbi Yosef said when we say that the Yisuf Gir Nasha applies to kachim, that's only for kachim that are eaten. However, if it does not apply to kachim that are not eaten, let's say an oila. Rabbi Yechon said it applies to kachim that are not eaten as well. Papa said they don't argue. Rabbi Yechon is referring to the halacha that if one eats the Gir Nasha of an oila, he gets malchus. Rabbi Yosef is referring to the halacha that the Gir Nasha of an oila may be burned on the mizbeach. Some say Rabbi Papa said they don't argue. Rabbi is referring to removing the Gir Nasha before putting it on the mizbeach, and he's saying that it need not be removed. Rabbi Yechon is referring to bringing it on the mizbeach after it was removed. It may not be brought on the mizbeach if it was removed from the thigh. Nachman Yisrael says that they do argue whether the Gir Nasha still in the thigh may be offered on the mizbeach. We find this machlekes Tanoim regarding this, and so Rabbi Yechon and Rabbi Chia have the same machlekes as the Tanoim. Brayta says pasuk of v'hikter hakoynes hakoil hamizbecha comes to include the bones, sinews, horns, and hooves. We would think that they should be offered even if they're separated from the animal. The pasuk therefore says v'yasisay lesecha basa v'adam. Once we have the two psukim, we learn that while they are attached, they're offered. But when they're not attached, they're not offered, and they have to be taken off if they were brought up. Who is the Tana who holds that if they've been separated, they must be taken off the mizbeach? It's the view of Rebbe, as it can be seen in another brayso. The brayso says the pasuk of Hiktar Kohen es hakoil hamizbeach comes to include the bones, sinews, horns, and hooves, even if they've been separated from the body. The pasuk of Yasisa Yesecha Basar V'Adam teaches that if these popped off the fire, they would not be put back into the fire. Only meat that popped off would be put back onto the fire. Rebbe says Hiktar Kohen es hakoil comes to include, and Yasisa Yesecha Basar V'Adam comes to exclude. This teaches when they're attached, they're brought up onto his back, but if they're separated, they're even taken down from his back. We see from here that the Rebbe and the Rabbanan argue whether the sinews that are separated from the animal are brought on the mizbeach. The Rabbanan hold that we don't need the pasuk to include the bones and sinews that are attached because we can learn that from the head of the animal, which is full of bones, and it's offered on the mizbeach. Therefore, they say the pasuk teaches that even when they're separated, they're offered. Rebbe says the head, we would only know that attached bones and sinews that are mutter may be brought up. The pasuk is needed to teach that even the Gir Nasha is attached, is still brought up on the mizbeach. The Rabbanan say that the Gir Nasha may not be offered on the mizbeach because the pasuk says mimashke Yisrael, which teaches that only something that is mutter to be eaten by Yidden can be brought up on the mizbeach. Rebbe says the blood and fats are offered even though they're also for Yidden, and the Gir Nasha is no different. The Rabbanan say the mitzvah is to offer the blood and the fats, and that's why they can't be compared to the Gir Nasha. We see from here that whether the Gir Nasha may be brought on the mizbeach when still attached to the thigh is a subject of machlekes among Tanoim. Rav Huna said the Gir Nasha of an oila is removed and thrown into the pile of ash on the top of his back rather than burned. Rav Chizda said the pasuk regarding the Gir Nasha says, therefore the Bnei Yisrael may not eat the Gir Nasha. It doesn't say the mizbeach may not eat it, and therefore it can be brought up on the mizbeach. Rav Huna said it may not be offered based on the pasuk of Mashke Yisrael, which teaches only something that may be eaten by the Yidden may be brought up on the mizbeach. Fekmar Brayso says the Gir Nasha of an oila is brought up onto the mizbeach. Presumably this means it's offered, and Fekmar means it's brought up in the thigh, removed on the mizbeach from the thigh, and thrown into the pile of ashes. Fekmar, if it's removed, why do we bother to bring it up? After more, it's not proper and nice to bring up a thigh that has already been cut up and dissected. There's a brayso that says like Rav Huna as well. Zokmar Vaiter. A Mishnah says there was a pile of ashes on the back. That then there were times there were about 300 kur of ashes on it. Rava said this is an exaggeration. A Mishnah says they would give the carbon tamid lamb to drink from a golden cup. Rava says it's an exaggeration. Rabbi Ami said there are times when the Torah uses exaggerated language like people do. There are times when the Nevi'im did this, and there are times when the Chacham did this. An example of the Chacham doing this is the two Mishnayos we just quoted. An example of the Torah doing this is the pasuk of Orim Gedolos Uvetzuros Bashamoyim. An example of the Nevi'im doing this is Vatibaka Haaretz B'Koilam. Rabbi Yisrael Bar Nachman and Rav Shmuel said there are three places where the Chacham used exaggerated language. They're regarding the mound of ashes, regarding the grapevine, and regarding the paraychas. The case of the mound of ashes was discussed above. The case of the grapevine is the mission that says that there was a golden grapevine at the entrance of the Heichal, and people would donate golden grapes or clusters of golden grapes to it. Rav Tzadok said it once happened they needed 300 kahanim to remove all the golden grapes. The case of the paraychas is a Mishnah in which Rav Shimon Gamliel, named Rav Shimon ben Haskan, says the paraychas was a tefach thick and was 20 by 40 amos in size. The Mishnah describes how many hundreds of thousands of threads were used for it. The Mishnah says that there were 2 of them made each year, and 300 kahanim were needed to be toiveled. Okay, the Mishnah said b'yarich shel yamin u'b'yarich shel smoil. This is Zachting. The Mishnah does not follow Rabbi Yehuda because the Bryce Rabbi Yehuda says the Isser to Gir Nasha only applies to the Gir Nasha on one of the thighs, and logic tells us that it's on the Gir Nasha on the right thigh. That's also. In fact, does this mean Rabbi Yehuda is certain that it's only the right thigh? And logic he refers to as logic of the Torah, or is he uncertain? It means the logic leans us to say that it's on the right thigh, but we don't know for certain. As well, maybe we can answer from a Mishnah. The Mishnah says the bones, the gidin, and the nicer meat of the Pesach has to be burned on the 16th of Nisan. The Gemara over there says the Mishnah can't be referring to the regular gidin because if they have to be burned for having been left overnight, they would fall under the nicer category and shouldn't be mentioned separately by the Mishnah. It also can't be referring to the gidin of the neck, which people don't eat, and will therefore have to be burned in the morning, because if these gidin don't have the status of meat, why would they have to be burned at all? Chisa said the Mishnah is referring to the Gid Anosha according to Rabbi Yehuda, who says that only the Gid Anosha of one side is Asr. And although we're not certain which side is Asr, it's likely the right side. Now, this must mean that we're uncertain according to Rabbi Yehuda, and therefore both Gid Anosha may not be eaten. One as a true Isser deraisa, and the other because we're unsure which one is the true Isser. The Gid Anosha is actually mutter and is not eaten due to the uncertainty, must be burned when it's left overnight and becomes nice. Since it's never eaten, the Mishnah mentions it separately as needed to be burned. We see that Rabbi Yehuda is uncertain as to which Gid Anosha is the one that's Asr. The Gemara says it's not really a valid proof. Even if someone says that Rabbi Yehuda is certain that only the right side is Asr, the Mishnah may be discussing whether the two Gid Anoshas became mixed up, in which case neither may be eaten. Rav Ashi said the Mishnah's mention of Gidin refers to the fats around the Gid Anosha, which a Bright says is mutter, but which Klal Yisrael has accepted upon themselves the custom of not eating it, and therefore it's not a proof to what Rabbi Yehuda holds. Ravina said the Mishnah is referring to the Gid that is near, but on the outside of the Gid Anosha, which Rabbi Yehuda, the name of Shmuel says that it's also D'Rabbanan, and therefore there's no proof as to what Rabbi Yehuda actually holds.